let's look at some expressions that you can use to ask other people for help in American English. Again, all of the expressions that you see here imply that you need another person's help, so the definitions are always going to be very similar. We'll also provide some example sentences so you can see some situations where these could be used. You can also use these in writing as well. If you don't mind, notice rising on mind also has that I sound. Mine is your stress. Mind, mind. If you don't mind, notice that everything else before it is said pretty quickly. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you have time, again, similar to the last one, time also has that I sound. I, time, so making sure that your mouth is wide enough for it. It's also going to receive your stress and have rising intonation. If you have time, you may also see it with a falling intonation, like if you have time, like if you have time, can you check this for me? Or if you have time, can you check this for me? If you're not busy, this again is going to have the stress on busy. Also notice the intonation pattern here. This is a very common one in English where you have a fall followed by a rise. Busy, busy. So fall on the bi and then rise on the z. Busy. If you're not busy, this type of intonation pattern again is super common in English and can make you sound more natural. If you just use the rise or you just use the fall for it, it's not going to sound quite as natural. So again, it's not busy, it's busy, and it's not busy, it's busy, busy. It really has both of those motions. Could you do me a favor and notice that your stress is going to be on favor. Again, everything else before it is going to be said pretty quickly. Favor, and this would then be followed, of course, by your command. Favor, favor. So again, we have that A sound, but you want to make sure you're also holding that R. Favor. Could you do me a favor, and when you have a minute, notice here the stress is actually going to be on have usually. When you have a minute, notice also for minute, you're going to get two short I sounds. Minute, minute. It's not minute, it's minute. When you have a minute, minute will have a rising intonation on the last syllable. When you have a minute, could you lend me a hand? This is one that's probably not going to appear in writing. This is probably more of a spoken one. Could you lend me a hand? Stressing hand. This has that ah plus nasal sound that we've talked about before in some other videos. So if this is a hard word to say, hand, because it's not han, it's not han, it's hand. If you find that a little difficult, definitely check out this video because it goes into more detail on these sounds. Hand will also receive your stress. Can you lend me a hand? Notice also some of the linking here for could you. Could you lend me a hand? When you link the sound with a Y, it often takes on the j sound. So instead of just saying could you, it often becomes could you lend me a hand? Would you be able to? Your stress here is going to be on able. Would you be able to? You can hear that able, again, that A sound, able. Watch out also for the bull. So it's not able, it's able. So your mouth at the end is mostly closed and straight, and the front of your tongue is down. Bull, able. We also again have that j sound between the D and the Y in would you be able to? This is then followed by a base verb because you have an infinitive. Like, would you be able to go? Or would you be able to stay? Things like that. If you think of some other expressions that you can use for help, feel free to post them in the comments, or if there's things you're not sure about, feel free to ask below as well.